Eddie Reynoso, longtime friend, trainer, and manager of Canelo, he let it be known then that Canelo Alvarez will not fight on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th or whatever day it lies on, May 4th, 3rd of 2026. Instead, he is going to try to fight in September, and he's pursuing Terence Crawford.
King of boxing has stepped away from his throne, at least for now. As for the first time in over 5 years, the sport's biggest superstar is walking away from a date that once belonged solely to him, leaving Cinco de Mayo weekend, a tradition synonymous with Canelo Alvarez, empty in 2026. Not because of rest or vacation, but as part of a calculated and desperate attempt to rewrite history. With reports confirming that Canelo is shelving his usual, made plans to focus entirely on one rival who didn't just defeat him in September 2025, but shattered the aura of invincibility he spent decades building, setting the stage for a high-stakes showdown in September 2026, a move that is almost unheard of in boxing, where dates matter. And Cinco de Mayo remains the most valuable real estate any fighter dreams of owning.
Four-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer, former two-time undisputed super middleweight Saul Canelo Alvarez sends a message through his longtime trainer, mentor, and father figures, Eddie Reynoso and Chapo Reynoso, who have been training him for 20 years. And Canelo Alvarez, he lets it be known that the boxing world is calling for him to retire after his performance with Terence "Bud" Crawford in September. But he stated that he is indeed going to push forward. He wants to become a world champion again. He wants to recapture what he left in the ring with Terence Crawford in September. And he plans to also continue to honor the two Mexican holidays that he has been fighting on, which is Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Day weekend. And he says, see you guys.
For Canelo to willingly walk away from that weekend says everything about his mindset. This isn't a normal break. It's a retreat, a silent admission that business as usual is over, as the machine that delivered blockbuster fights year after year has finally come to a halt.
The news, but Canelo Alvarez wants Terence Crawford rematch, says negotiations are underway for 2026. Now, first off, I expect nothing less from Canelo. He wants to get that fight back because, well, number one, it's a somewhat advantageous matchup at 168 for him, and there's not many other matchups at 168 for Canelo right now that offer him any sort of advantages. Imagine you try to put him in there with the Hamza Shiraz or someone with a bigger frame, longer, taller. I mean, even David Benavidez, before he went and knocked out and absolutely smoked Anthony Yarde, was saying, you know, I'm still entertaining the potential of a Canelo fight. There's not many other people at 168. I mean, maybe if you did Chris Eubank Jr., but after he loses to Conor Ben, what does that fight really even mean? Canelo says, I want my run back. I want my get back, but I gotta be honest, I don't know how this goes well for Canelo in a rematch. Honestly, you look at the first fight, and the things that plagued Canelo were essentially the things that plague him against most boxers. His flat feet, his lack of movement, his lack of volume. He couldn't get to Terence. He was overextending. He was getting caught with counter shots as he overextended. The big shown around, memed, and replayed moment of the fight is Canelo trying to throw a hook and a right hand, and Terence Crawford slipping on the outside and banging the left hand counter behind it. Canelo was beaten to the punch from distance. He was beaten in exchanges, and even at points in the fight, he was beaten inside by Terence Crawford. This was I wouldn't say dominant, but I would say more one-sided than I thought.
The decision has sent shockwaves through boxing because it reveals a vulnerability we've never seen before. Canelo once controlled the calendar, dictating terms to networks, opponents, and venues. But after losing his undisputed super middleweight crown, that power is gone, with Eddie Reynoso confirming there will be no May fight, breaking a long streak of dominance as the team clears the slate, sacrificing short-term money for one chance at long-term redemption.
He needs to make a change, I think. I would love to see the rematch. I think in the rematch, if he comes back with the hunger that he needs, he could beat Crawford. Because Crawford, you know, is very talented, but I think Canelo could beat him. Canelo's strong, man. Canelo's strong. Canelo could take a good punch. So I think he could just go and don't respect his punch and throw punches even though you're gonna get hit. But don't give up. Keep going until you hit him.
Behind the scenes, the situation is far more serious than a bruised ego. As the delay is driven by medical necessity following Canelo's punishing loss to Terence Crawford in September 2025, which required elbow surgery, not a minor procedure, but a difficult reconstruction demanding long rehabilitation. And at 35 years old, his body simply doesn't recover the way it once did in his prime.
He did get elbow surgery on his lead elbow. This was on October 25th. Apparently also had a new child. So congrats to Canelo on the new baby. But he also had the elbow surgery. He is now, I guess, rehabbing that. 4 to 6 weeks for him to resume training. So it's not getting in the way of something in 2026. But what I realistically think Canelo could and should and would do differently for this fight is he would have to fight Terence Crawford like he fought Sergey Kovalev at 175. That's genuinely what he would have to do. He'd have to be lighter on his feet, he'd have to throw more combinations, and he'd have to be quicker with his hands, as he was in that fight. And I'm not saying that he changes everything about himself. Canelo had success in moments with Bud Crawford, but that's what he would have to do, and some, right? He would have to be able to add layers to his game and not be so flat-footed. And if he's going to combination punch, he's got to do so in the fire with Terence Crawford, which going into the first fight, I didn't think Terence Crawford was going to have as much success with his combination punching because he'd have to be in front of the powerful hands of Canelo. But again, he was able to do so off the back foot and front because Canelo threw one at a time. He threw the jab or the right hand, or he threw the hook right hand. And again, Terence Crawford remained mostly southpaw, which does give Canelo problems because now he has to lead with his backhand versus punctuate with it, and his jab gets neutralized, and it's just a mess of a fight for Canelo. It really is. I don't hate that he wants to get that back, and the matchup itself is, again, one of the only ones that Canelo can still have. Make a shit ton of money and potentially not completely kill his star power should he lose. He still has, I think, a couple more fights with the Ring Magazine and Riyadh season that he needs to fulfill his contract. So if he's able to get the rematch with Terence, from his perspective, I understand.
This creates a massive gap in Canelo's career, as a return in September 2026 would mean a full year of inactivity, his longest since the 2020 shutdowns. A dangerous gamble for a fighter who depends on rhythm, where rust is real and time off can be costly, but with the wear and tear of more than 60 professional fights finally catching up to him, Canelo is being forced to choose between a rushed comeback that could end his career or a long layoff that risks his relevance.
Crawford and Canelo Alvarez is the rematch, because where does Canelo go from here now? He's got a guy stepping up from welterweight, serving him up a bit of a whooping, because that's what it was, and now he's got, like, where does he go? He can't really compete up at light heavyweight because Bivol's done him. Benavidez has gone up to there now, and I don't think that's a fight he's going to fancy. I feel like a lot of people are saying he swerved that Benavidez fight, so I don't think he's going to want to go up to light heavyweight and fight him. So it's like the only sensible option, or the only real option, is the rematch. And that's the same for Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford's now 168 pounds. Who does he fight? Who does he go for next? It's difficult. There's no other real big names. I mean, there's a kid in England called Hamza Shiraz who's tapping on the door for something big. And I had a chat with him yesterday, and he's talking about the Canelo fight, and he'd take that. But realistically, is Canelo Alvarez or Terence Crawford going to want to jump in with Hamza Shiraz? I mean, Shiraz has got a great future ahead of him. I think he's going to do really well. But he's not in that mix, is he? If he gets an opportunity, go for it. Don't think Crawford would be interested. Canelo, it does nothing for him. So these two, really, the only fight for him is the rematch. For me, that's the only real, feasible option that I could see where I'd say, yeah, you know what? This is a fight where the fans may or may not get hold of it. But for me, I don't even want to see it. Terence Crawford dominated that fight so much. And I know it was a little bit nip-tuck at times, but when you look at the art of pugilism and the skill set that came from Terence Crawford and the way he dismantled, dissected, and beat him at his own game towards the end, took Canelo on and beat him at his own game. Terence Crawford it was an easy night's work for him, dare I say. An easy night's work against Canelo Alvarez. And I don't want to rain on this parade.
Despite the surgery and long layoff, the team's focus is narrowed to one obsession. There will be no tune-up fight, no easy comeback, as Eddie Reynoso has made it clear that Plan A is Terence Bud Crawford and nothing else, revealing Canelo's mindset as he chooses to jump straight back into the fire with the man who dominated him in a unanimous decision. Masterclass in September 2025. A loss that still haunts him, forcing him to ignore every other contender at 168 and gamble everything on a rematch. Because if he waits until September 2026 and loses again, the Canelo era is officially over.
Last thing, Canelo said that he might bypass May for a rematch between September. Your thoughts? That's new news for me.
Yeah. Would you be open to the rematch?
Crawford is currently sitting on top of the world as the
The problem with becoming the challenger is that you no longer control the narrative. And Terence Crawford is making sure Canelo feels that shift in power. Brushing off rematch talk with an ice-cold laugh and a fight hype clip by saying, "That's new news to me." A subtle reminder that while Canelo can chase the fight, Crawford now holds the cards. Flipping a dynamic where opponents once begged Canelo for opportunities, and now Canelo is the one pursuing the bout.
Terence Crawford deserves it, and he's demanding that he gets $100 million, as he should. As he should. He has more to lose than Canelo Alvarez, and he can get a legacy fight at middleweight to now, I don't want to say pad his stats, but to pad his stats. If he competes at middleweight, right, and becomes undisputed at middleweight, that'll make him a 4-division undisputed champion and a 6-division champion overall, right? He has more to gain than Canelo Alvarez, right? And he has more to lose, right? So the fight did, Saul Canelo Alvarez, it did 45,812,000 live gate, right? And nearly 65,000 people in attendance. So with that said, as I'm saying, right, it was very successful. Now, because of the way the fight, what really wasn't that competitive, I don't know. The demand is not there for the fight. It's just not. Right? People are not interested. They saw what they saw. You can't unsee it. And then people immediately started to tell you that Canelo Alvarez ain't the same guy. Right? So with that said, you saw what you saw. You can't unsee it. And it only gets worse for Canelo. Because again, it's a stylistic matchup issue. Period.
This puts the promoters and networks in a massive bind. Can a rematch?
Crawford sits atop the boxing world as the undisputed king. With options that don't require waiting for a recovering Canelo, from moving up another weight class to unifying belts, making him indifferent to Alvarez's chase, a new experience for a fighter used to the universe orbiting around him, now just another contender waiting for a contract. While Crawford's camp, led by coach Bernie Davis, is reportedly demanding a staggering $100 million purse for a rematch. A price that reflects the risk of facing a heavier, desperate Canelo after already defeating him.